What's going on, beautiful people? This is Titus Baxter. Welcome to my channel, and this will be a renter's review of the 2018 Honda Africa Twin Adventure Sport. This is not the DCT version, just a normal manual version. Why a renter's review, you say? Well, I recently went on a motorcycle trip, flew from Cincinnati, where I live, out to the beautiful city of Salt Lake City, Utah. I rented a motorcycle there via rideshare. This is not a sponsored video, but it was a great experience using that app. On this motorcycle, I went to see a MLS soccer game, RSL, and I drove from Salt Lake City with a friend up to Yellowstone, stayed there for a day and drove back. So a total of over 600 miles or so over a couple of days with this motorcycle, and it was a blast. So I may not have a full-on owner's review, but if you ever have thought about this bike, especially renting it, I certainly have some experience. And I'll be releasing a video about that trip. Actually, I think it'll be a two-part series of that trip, and hopefully I'll be releasing that to you guys over the next week or so. Let's dive into this bike. The first question that you might be asking is why I chose to rent it in the first place, and there are several reasons. The first one was that I was going to be doing two-up riding. I wanted to make sure that the bike was strong enough to be able to carry me and a passenger. The next was that I needed power for the highway. I knew that most of my riding would be on the highway, and I didn't want to be chugging along with too little power to get me there efficiently. Next was for the luggage. This happened to have two side panniers as long as a back rack, the rack on the back, which also worked out well for my passenger. She was able to kind of rest on that and be nice and cozy throughout the ride. The next was, at the time I was looking into getting more into off-road riding, and although I was doing much more on-road riding, of course, with this bike, much more tarmac, I figured that maybe this would be a chance for me to see, what the ergonomics of an adventure bike feel like, and see if it was something I might actually be interested in. Next was comfort. I could have easily gone for like a cruiser style bike and been nice and cozy, but I felt like the Africa Twin might offer some comfort as far as riding, especially for hours at a time while I'm on the highway. And this was something also that I wasn't used to. The bikes that I've had previously are like a CV750, Suzuki Bandit 600, KZ 650, Moto Guzzi V7 now, of course. And this was a good chance to check out a little bit different style of riding than I was normally used to. And last was, it's a good looking bike. The Africa Twin, I love the color scheme of this one in particular. It had gold trim and then the red, white, and blue paint job. Just a fantastic looking bike. So it was really cool to have such a good looking bike to rent. So my first thoughts upon riding the bike were that it had good power, plenty of power for me to do everything that I needed to with the bike. Some good technology. I'm used to somewhat older bikes and bikes that typically don't have much tech to them. So this had different rider modes. I don't think I've ever ridden a bike with a different rider mode or owned a bike with different rider modes, for instance. So that was kind of fun to be able to tinker around with some of those, creature comforts along those lines. The suspension was plush and made it feel so smooth, which is something that I didn't realize that I didn't know much about. But man, when I was going over bumps compared to my Guzzi, for instance, it just rode over bumps like it was nothing. So that was awesome. And it was surprisingly easy to ride. Obviously it's taller, but it felt easy to maneuver. I remember one of the first maneuvers I did was I had to pull a U-turn in the middle of the street to go the other way, and it felt really good to be able to do so. Ready for this? Look at those mountains too. Ready for this turnabout though? Ooh. Oh yeah. Look at that. You see it? You see it? You see it on the big bike? Also, of course, that it was great on the highway. Like I said, I'm not gonna lie, there were so many times where I was pushing, I would look down, I'm going at least 80 miles an hour easily on the highway with a passenger and our luggage that needed to last us, 4 or 5 days while we're on this trip. So that was just awesome. Cons of the bike that I kind of find out about. And this first one's a kind of a question, but that it's kind of an old man's bike. And what I mean by that is it, it doesn't really feel like it's a bike you want to go out and be a hooligan on. Although I did get it on the dirt, a little bit, but yeah, the bike made me feel more mature, if you will. So again, is it kind of meh? But it's still something I might consider once I wouldn't want it now is what I'm saying. But maybe in the future, something to kind of relax and ride on. I could possibly certainly see it. Another con, it was surprisingly quiet. I don't think this is a bike that you're going to wake up your neighbors with, which in that case it's good. They say loud pipes saves lives, and this one was a pretty quiet bike altogether. But it did feel smooth. It, again, added to the smooth factor. Again, maybe not so much of a con, but something that I certainly noticed. And I will say this next one was one of the biggest ones for me, and it was actually the placement of the foot pegs. I put my feet down on the bike, and right where I put my feet down is exactly where the pegs are kind of pushing out into my legs, and I understand ultra wide. So it made it somewhat uncomfortable when trying to flat foot it, which was an interesting thing. And it might have been due to the seat height. I didn't really play with the seat height or seat positioning, which, if I'm not mistaken, is adjustable. So maybe that was part of it and I just did not realize. The next one is, like I said in the beginning, that it was not actually DCT. So if it were DCT, there was one particular part of the trip that just gave me so much pain. And it was actually when leaving Yellowstone National Park and just having to feather the clutch, and actually it was a super long line to get out. So eventually I just kind of had it just cut in front of everybody. Felt kind of like a D-bag, but man, my wrist would have given out on me at some point, and it just wouldn't have been a good look for anybody involved. So overall, did it live up to expectations? I'd have to say absolutely. It was such a joy to ride. The rider share experience was awesome. The trip was amazing. I don't want to have to imagine any other bike that I could have ridden for this trip. Overall, fantastic. If you're thinking about renting it, and these are some of the reasons why you might even be thinking about renting it, I would certainly say to go for it. Please, you guys, comment, like, share. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down below. If you have any other specific questions about the bike. Other than that, look forward to me releasing part 1 of the trip. There won't be any motorcycle riding in part 1, but still a fun trip. The second video will have all of the motorcycle riding, and you'll be seeing more of what you're used to seeing from me. So again, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Peace.